Hot damn, you're listening to Season 3 of Frolicking Chronicles.
It looks like we're recording.
If we can get that curtain closed, would be great. Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's
Hey.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
Wanted to tell you guys. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think one of my ears is acting up. As I was driving over here, was kind of laughing because I told Jaden, this is kind of ironic because we're driving to Mystic Museum and I feel like we're like heading to church. Church on a Sunday morning. We're at Mystic.
I just always think of that No Doubt song. So.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much
know,
for
Paul,
having me.
it's like
Thank
so
you.
dreamy to have you.
I appreciate it. Are you kidding? Oh,
Clink the earbuds.
clink, clink.
Clink, clink, clink. Paul and I met, gosh, it feels like time does not stand still. A few years ago, no, longer than that. Betty's going to be 14.
Oh, gosh.
And he helped me plan her double-digit birthday at the original Slashback video. So this is so perfect that we're here in the newest building from Mystic Museum. And, how do you feel about this space? I know it's one of our favorites.
Because, Paul, you've seen it from pretty much the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So-
I'm shocked that they were able to kind of like just pick up the whole Victorian parlor feel and relocate it and still have it kind of like feel the same way.
Right.
I
It's
agree
incredible.
because it's my first time being in this location, and when we were for the Scream exhibit, and I was like, oh gosh, the parlor thing's not here, but then I overheard Kiko say, no, you can still use the parlor room, it's just down the street. So this is kind of like Disneyland for me, like, oh wow, this is
You
so
walk in
cool how
here
it all
and it's
came
like-
together.
It's almost like you're in the old space.
Oh my gosh, totally. I'm hearing I think I might not have sound in my headphones, Jay. Just real quickly. Can I hear me? Hello?
I can
Hello?
hear you.
You can hear me?
Huh?
Okay, then fine.
I
As
can
long
hear
as it's
you.
working for you guys, because I can hear you. Awesome. Sorry, guys. All right.
Get that techie
Okay,
going.
so
Welcome, Paul Roberts of Ghost Watch Paranormal.
Okay.
Yes.
when Samantha and I were talking about our season 3 and the people that we wanted to have, I said, I really want to ask Paul. And she said, oh my gosh.
You ran out of names.
You should.
And you're like,
No, actually, you were at the top of
of the list.
Because I find you to be one of the most. First of all, we had a gravity pull. I feel like we became fast friends.
We did.
And you were totally open to me being borderline stalker with like, oh, can I get your address? Because I wanted to do like old school note writing, and I don't do that. And Samantha knows I'm really bad about thank you cards. I'm really bad about just correspondence like that. So I want you to feel very special. No, just kidding. But I don't know. I just felt like I wanted that if you were open to it, and you were. And then,
Totally.
I went to that seance that you were very big and a part of with Mystic Dylan over at his new shop. So hello, Dylan, if you're listening. That was a wonderful experience, but we'll tap into that in a little bit. I think the very first question that Samantha and I wanted to ask you is, how did you get involved in paranormal research
and what's your
and
background
investigation?
exactly? Like, because most of our listeners, I don't know, how are they familiar with Paul or?
Probably not.
Okay,
Not,
so like, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Background, born and raised in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So I have a very boring life, per se.
Not really.
Didn't go anywhere, didn't
Hey,
move
people dream their
states.
whole lives of moving to LA.
Yeah, well.
They do.
That really is the summary of like who I am.
Okay.
No, just born and raised in
LA
LA. How I got started in the paranormal, I think that's a little bit more interesting. But I always tell people it started out when I was a kid, and it was Scooby Doo. Everybody.
Sophia's in the
Shout
background
out to
right
Sophia,
now.
also a #1 Scooby-Doo fan.
Everybody. I mean,
I almost brought that cooler.
It was just that's how kids were.
Right.
It's you grew up on Scooby Doo, and it was fun. It was creepy and spooky.
Loved it. We were big fans too.
Yeah.
We're part of the mystery gang.
Yep.
I had a mom who encouraged like spooky things and horror, and so I was reading Stephen
It all
King
starts at home.
at a very young age.
Oh gosh.
And she introduced me to like horror movies and stuff. So it was just kind of like I was just fascinated with it, and I loved it. That was my jam. Later, how I actually got into the paranormal. I mean, there's always this cursory thing of like being interested in it. You're watching the shows. I grew up on on MTV. It was Fear.
Oh gosh,
like around 1992.
yeah. We had just joined the Coast Guard around that time.
I was thinking, what was that show about? Wasn't like Fear Factor?
No,
it
Fear
kind
Factor
of was,
came after though. But
it came
was
after,
similar,
but it was
right?
like that where they got these contestants and they sent them off. And what the cool thing about it was some of these places were like international. Like they took them to Mexico. They took them to like these remote places. Ready. And it's like, we're going to lock you in this village, and it's a haunted village, and then you have to go and do these tasks. And
La Llorona.
Yeah, but I was fascinated by it, and there was some crazy stuff. It's like, okay, we're going to lock you in this jail cell overnight, and we'll come back and get you, hopefully, unless you tap out. I mean, it was so cool.
Yeah,
it sounds
very
like
intense.
Vincent Price, like the house, the haunted house. What was the name?
Haunted Hill. The House on Haunted Hill.
Such a fantastic movie, right?
Speak about Los Angeles.
You can win $10,000 if you stay the whole night.
It was very much like that. And it was a precursor because it was at least maybe about 10 years-ish before like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures.
Yeah,
and
really
that
like
kind of picked up.
Boom. You know, all of a sudden it was there.
It's almost everywhere you look. There's now a new paranormal
the fact that
show.
it is on Shark Week, by the way, Samantha and I need to do a review on that because I did not find that was the haunted,
I think they just put where it's like when the FDA or something says something is green, right? It's like,
doesn't necessarily mean
that it's eco-friendly.
Is that the hotel that's out in the middle of
yes,
the
first of all, I didn't
oil
know
rig?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly
yeah.
one. So it grabbed me on the icon, and I said,
of course, they mentioned our Coast Guard.
Shark
Paranormal
ghosts, yeah.
made it like onto Shark Week. I was so excited, and it was a little hard to sit through, to be honest. And we could talk about that later. But I feel like the Coast Guard did get some play
about that episode. Was that lady's wetsuit?
Yeah,
it was pretty.
It was pretty.
Yeah. It was good. No, I thought it was interesting.
It was interesting, but maybe it should be a series if it was really haunted.
If it was really haunted, I'm sure.
There has to be things.
So, Paul, what I'm hearing is like your mom brought you into the spooky world. We're October babies. Are you by
November
chance?
baby?
Very close.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We
it's a Valentine's
have some.
baby.
Oh, right. Hello.
That's what happens.
That
Okay. But I also kind of saw on your website that Ghost Watch Paranormal is a Los Angeles-based group of friends who love to explore haunted locations wherever the road takes us. So you are your own mystery game.
Yes, and that's kind of how I always envisioned it.
So who's like, shout out to a couple of your friends. Do you guys go regularly, monthly? Is it like everybody kind of?
I feel like Andrew's very active.
Yeah,
right now.
Andrew.
I met him right at the seance.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he was there helping film.
Cool guy.
So shout out to Andrew. And really, we've got like JT, we've got Lindley, and then it's just kind of a rotating thing of just different people who want to come along.
Or Shaggy?
Probably most people would call me like Scooby or something.
Are you
Are you Who do you relate to? That could be a good question. Who do you like associate with or identify with the most?
Yeah. I think Scooby. I would probably go
I
with
love that.
'cause I'll be the first one out the door.
You did bring donuts. Thank you very much.
Yes,
See? I brought snacks.
I
brought Scooby snacks.
He totally brought snacks.
So delicious.
I'm trying the maple bacon.
I took some of that
How
too.
is it?
It was delicious.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And a little protein on there.
Spoiling us.
And protein. Yeah, so it's a breakfast thing.
I think so. A little sweetness. I think that's awesome.
Sis, the other thing you and I were very curious about was what was your first paranormal investigation, and piggyback on that, the most memorable one.
Okay. I'll backtrack a little bit, and it's kind of like it goes back to the first question of like, how did I get started?
Yes.
So it was basically what I was going through. I went through a divorce, and it was a tough time in my life.
Yeah.
And it was basically called, what I learned to find out, it was a spiritual oppression. So basically, it's the belief that there's negative things out in this world.
Absolutely.
And if you want to go into Catholicism and that belief, there's angels, there's demons, there's all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to use the D word that much. Trust me. I don't, I don't subscribe
I appreciate
to
that.
But basically, these negative entities are attracted to negativity.
Yes.
And so that's why you hear a lot of the extreme hauntings are in asylums or hospitals or prisons, or because that's just a place of misery.
Yes.
And so they feed off of that. They
People are
love
sad,
that.
they're dying.
So,
or they've been wrongly accused of being crazy when maybe they had supernatural.
And I would say abandoned by family, too,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the most ultimate betrayal and hurt
Absolutely, and that's kind of the thing that drew me into it. So, I'm knock on wood, I'm still here.
Right.
It was to that level where I was that
Gosh, Paul, I
oppressed.
didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Where I was doing things and I was surprised if I'd wake up the next morning.
Wow,
so
and here you are.
I need to give you a
And
hug.
yeah, and here I am.
Oh, twin power activate. Okay.
So
What was the light bulb that went off, or was that part of the whole experience?
it was kind of the whole experience. I mean, I didn't know it was going on. You don't when you're in the situation,
Right.
you have no idea. And of course, nobody around me knew what was going on. They just
Right.
thought I was being, hermiting myself away and secluded, the ultimate quarantine before
By the
quarantine
way,
came in.
isolating, is a big one too, where those guys will
Oh,
come
yeah.
get you.
Absolutely, they cut me off. There'd be a barbecue pool party going on in the backyard, and I'm in my room in the dark, just watching horror movies or something like that, and just would
Wow.
not come out.
That's intense, Paul.
So it was. I don't know. Honestly, I always give credit to it, but it was a show called Paranormal State.
yeah.
It was the one with Ryan Buell.
Yeah.
And it was one episode, I forgot what it was, but it was Lorraine Warren, and she was talking about
Love
spiritual
Lorraine.
oppression.
Rest in peace.
And rest in peace. And that's when that was the light bulb that went off.
Okay.
I'm like, wait a second.
That this could be something more than just me sitting in
Yeah,
the
wait,
room.
it's
just
not normal.
being
'Cause
antisocial.
I would sleep and I would look in the corner and there would be, and they always talk about shadow people being darker than dark. It was dark. They were darker than dark. It just wasn't one. Sometimes it would be a couple. Sometimes they'd be by my bed in the corner, in that corner. I mean, it would
They were
just.
seeking
So they
you out.
came
Oh,
on.
absolutely.
They were
Yes.
living off
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Yeah, they
vibe you had
they
at
were
that
camping
time.
out.
Wow.
So once I figured out, I watched the show and I'm like, okay, great, I'm taking notes. And she talked about reclaiming your space. And so for the next 2 weeks, I would yell like at the top of my lungs, get the F out. You're not welcome here. This isn't your space. This is my space.
Reclaim your space.
Reclaim your
That's
space.
so important.
Oh yeah. And so it was about 2 weeks.
I
2
feel like you
solid
could give a
weeks.
class on that, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I just got. Like I said, knock on wood.
Right.
I got out. You'd never get out, and we could talk about that later. But it was about 2 weeks, and then it just felt like a balloon popped. I don't want to say there was an audible, like you can feel the pop, but you felt the pop of the air.
You felt like
And
the
it
release
changed.
or being let go of.
Everything.
Wow.
Oh
So
my
all of a
gosh.
sudden, like my dogs wouldn't come in the room. I'd have the door open, and the dogs would just stand there and look at me, and it's like they don't want to come in. My roommate would come in. He wouldn't come in the door either. He would just be kind of like, I'll talk to you from the hallway. It's like,
Ooh, that sounds very dark and heavy.
So they're
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
it like
that stagnation.
yeah.
yeah, that's a good way to put it, because you're just, it's like a mire, and you're just sinking in it.
Ooh.
Anyway, so that was the catalyst. That was the whole thing. Because in my head, it was the thought of like, how many other people are like this, and how many people are committing suicide? Not because it's a mental thing per se, but maybe it's something that they're afflicted or pushed towards.
Yeah, they're being
And necessarily
chased
they
and-
wouldn't do, but
Right. And then if I heard you correctly, like everybody was just out doing their thing, like, okay, just leave Paul be.
Yeah.
Like nobody was really checking on
No.
you, or
No.
it's so important to check on your friends, your family.
No.
Even sometimes a text, just like, hey, just happen to be thinking about
Mm-hmm.
you.
I figured out why I can't hear my sister. So move your mic just a little closer to you. There you go. Now
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
Wow. So Paul, I mean, if we have any listeners right now that are struggling through that, just in case, what would their first step be?
Oh, just exactly what I was saying. It's reclaiming your space.
Yeah.
It's understanding that maybe you're not acting like yourself.
Yeah.
Being
And that is when you
self-aware.
be self-aware. Is this normal?
Mm-hmm.
Is this really normal for me? It also kind of goes to the whole thought of like, don't go so down, or don't be so hard on yourself.
Right.
Stuff happens. We live. Life keeps going, and
Time still
things
keeps
change.
on ticking. That's
Yeah.
just
You
Times
never
can
know.
be hard. That
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like a very strong moment in your life, and sometimes you have to give yourself, at least for myself, when I've had those situations, it's like, okay, I can only live in this for this long.
Mhm.
That's it.
we
then
do
gotta-
have a solid about 2-day turnaround where
we do.
I mean, that's kind of my own personal rule. Is just like, I'm going to sit in this grief for a second. I avoid sitting in other people's grief.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people kind of attach themselves to other people's situations, maybe
Right.
a little too much. And then I just kind of want to be like, all right, I'm done with that. And I just feel like reclaiming your space. Like, I love that term.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first paranormal investigation then.
First paranormal investigation.
I'm just going to bring that closer to you.
We'll go. Okay, so once that kind of happened, I was like, okay, this is something I have to do. This is something I need to kind of do. I was set on the path. And so it's kind of when people ask, like, how do you start doing paranormal investigation?
Yeah.
It's like, well, how I did it too is kind of the same way that I recommend to a lot of people is, go to those tours, because now they're like everywhere.
Tours. Every town has one.
There's either a tour or there's a paranormal group that's hosting
Right.
an investigation.
I
always say,
Disneyland had one at like pre-pandemic that you could sign up for. Their little ghost
Did they
story walk.
really?
Yeah, and
I
never
never
booked
heard
it.
such a
that's
thing.
Yes.
shocking.
Yeah,
Oh my
one of their,
gosh.
I don't want to say it was on the VIP level, but it would be
I
one
would
of their
think so.
behind the scenes tours.
I would think
you
so.
know?
Yeah, because they're freaky about that.
You okay, sis?
I am. I was in that historic barn yesterday, and the little dust things I think are
Sure.
So, first paranormal investigation.
First paranormal. I signed up. It was actually some of the guys that were on Paranormal Stay. And it was in New Mexico. And it was this place called the St. James Hotel. And so it was a road trip kind of a situation. I hopped in my Jeep and I drove to New Mexico. And it was the wildest thing. It was exciting. It was so cool to hang around with other people that were like-minded.
No wonder you know so many of these people in the industry, by the way, because I'm like, that's some old school cred, by the way.
That's luck.
Wow.
I mean, that's just, it's
I love you
luck.
said it's luck in LA, baby.
It's luck. It's LA. It's slightly LA. I mean, now things are so much more open and so much more accessible.
Although I do feel there's a lot of paranormal investigators in the Midwest.
Yes.
Or,
Well, that's
like there's
where
a big anchor.
That's where all, like, I always say that. It's like the East Coast and the Midwest and even up Northwest.
Because they're
They've got
older
all the
than
great places.
California, you know?
We've recycled through so many things and houses and neighborhoods and stuff like that. We've kind of missed out on some really kind of things. Or, venues are really expensive as far as like trying to rent them out for investigations or.
Yeah, you guys
it's
need to go
difficult.
to his website and see all the locations he said. And by the way, I noticed some are not listed on there.
I haven't updated our website. I'm so horrible.
Shame train.
No, it's okay.
No,
we
but
just
it's
got a
okay. It's so
website
bad.
yesterday.
Yeah, we just launched ours yesterday, our new one.
FrolicKingChronicles.com.
Okay, so you're in New Mexico, by the way. Some of the best food I've ever tasted in the world is from New
absolutely.
Mexico. And you go on this investigation.
Yes.
And what transpires? Because obviously, even if you did get freaked out, it wasn't enough to make you stop.
No, and it was, it was cool because it was immersive. So this group rented out the entire hotel, and it was this old saloon kind of bar hotel. Everybody who was anybody back in the Old West stayed there. They still had I don't know how many bullet holes in the bar.
Oh my gosh.
From
So was it Old
shootouts.
West thing?
It was totally Old West.
Ooh.
And the legend of that hotel was that they had room 18. That was I want to say it was locked from the mid 80s on, because the rumor was that the room was cursed. And
So 1980s they locked it because it was too much. Or
I
are
think
we
it was
talking,
somebody stayed in
1880s?
it.
Okay.
Like they had it it was kind of if I remember right, there's three or so different people who stayed in that room and then died afterwards.
Oh
gosh.
So the owner of the place decided, well, we're just going to lock this up
We
and we're
need
not
to
going to
just-
rent it
let's
anymore.
just be done with
Yeah.
it.
So it had been locked away.
And I'm sorry, where was it again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
It's Cimarron, New Mexico.
Oh, New Mexico, that's right.
Yeah.
She's talking about
So
the
it's
food.
about an hour or so from Albuquerque.
Now I want
And the
chili
name of the
relleno.
hotel?
The St. James Hotel. It's
St.
still there.
James Hotel.
You could still go do ghost
Well,
ghost
sure, it's
hunts
a
and stuff
moneymaker
there.
now, especially for historic places. Like, we need ways to, build that revenue stream.
So one of
They're
the
like jazz musicians.
so the group that was there, they had a show and they filmed it, and they were in the poker room, and the size of the table was about the same, and they caught on film, like a chair moving, which was cool, which
Starts
was
with
great.
a chair.
And you saw everything. They tried to check it out. The guy, his name's Chad Kalick. He still does investigations. You can check him out on social media. It's American Ghost Hunter. That's the name of his kind of
Okay.
brand. But he's a great documentary filmmaker. So of course, he shakes the evidence. He shakes the tree to see if anything falls out, or it's like, okay, we were just making it up, or it was one of us making the noise.
That's a big one, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, because you were always, when you're in those situations, it's like you're second guessing. Wait, was that real? Was it not real? Let's like scientifically break this down. How could that happen? Was there a breeze in the window? Like I feel like I go through all these Jason Bourne acts. Like how did that happen?
But you kind of do, because if you do that and you're left with that, I can't explain it, then that's the exciting thing. It's like panning for gold.
Right.
You know, you go through all the mud and everything like that, and if you find gold, then we found gold.
Yeah.
This is great.
And is it real?
Yeah.
Or fool's gold.
So the paranormal state team, they were completely welcoming.
They
awesome.
were great. Everybody, I mean, we're still in like the group that was there, the people, that was our first time meeting, and we're still like connected on social media.
I totally
It's
did.
I
that.
just
wild.
realized I lost my
It's
necklace
wild.
somewhere. Just keep an eye out.
What does it look like?
Wait, I just found it in my
No.
shirt. Excuse me.
We'll
Pardon
let you
me.
find that.
That is so funny. Okay,
Speaking
so
of panning for gold.
that's your first legit.
It's the little buckle. I'm sorry to be
It
distracting.
is a beautiful necklace, like the stone.
Yes.
Fluorite?
What is it?
See, I think it is fluorite, but see how pretty that look? I was like, where's my necklace?
It all matches. It's all good.
Yeah, but I
Love
think I
it.
need to get some jewelry repair on that.
So, anything specific happen at the hotel while you were there that you still remember till this day?
I think the most intense thing was 4 people were able to do it was like a silent auction kind of a thing, but 4 people were actually able to go into room 18 and do a little bit, like a half hour, I think maybe, investigation in there with
Wow.
one of the team members, and they locked you in, and you just sat there and
Hey,
and
that sounds like the original escape room.
maybe so. Maybe so. But it was wild, and to see the doorknob moving and to know that there's no one around.
Right.
Because this place is so old, you take a step down the hallway and you can hear it creak.
Right.
So the fact that there's nobody anywhere around the door to hear that jiggle.
Yeah, it's just your team.
Yeah.
You know where everybody's at, so then it has to,
So that excited me.
suspicious.
That excited me, and that's when I came back to LA. I'm like, I got to keep doing this. And back then there wasn't that many investigations kind of going on. So I hooked up with Los Angeles Paranormal. I met them, and because they were doing some amazing things. They investigated the Pico House downtown.
Yeah.
I went with them to La Purisma, the mission that's out in Lompoc.
Gosh.
Where else did we go? I mean, there was just
There's so many.
Yeah. Well, back then they were a lot more accessible. Like you can't go to the Pico House anymore. You can't go to the.
Yeah, they've shut it down.
Yeah.
It's just like the hotel we were talking Cecil, right? You can't go.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah,
that's a
level.
whole nother level of you can't.
Okay, just so I love it. That's your most memorable. Is exciting. For people. Do you have any words to the wise of people that want to get into it, or favorite equipment per se, or do you just go in and vibe the place? Like some people say, you don't need any equipment.
Well, let me just say this. You are at Ghost Watch Paranormal on Instagram. Right now, Paul is building like a retro paranormal investigation kit.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And I felt like so connected
Why
to
didn't
you
I
because
see
I'm
that?
like, some of it looks 1970s.
Yes. Oh, it is. It is.
And so anyway, to what Samantha was saying.
okay.
How do people start? What are the basics that they need?
How do people start? So, again, if it's that whole idea that go out with something that's already established, that way you don't have to worry about rental fees or booking or insurance or anything like that. Just go, get the vibe. If you like it, great. Do several, because some groups are very different than others.
That's what we're discovering.
So some are a little bit more intense, some are a a little bit more chill. So and you'll find
Some
your groove.
people talk through the whole investigation,
Oh,
and we're
don't get me
finding.
And then they say, "That's me talking. It's me whispering." I'm like, "Shut up."
We're trying to concentrate.
I always do the 101 rules before we get an investigation.
Yes,
Ground
rules.
And that's one of the things. It's like, if you're going to talk, just talk in a normal voice.
Right.
Because, I'm going to listen to this in a week when I'm reviewing the evidence, and I don't need to hear whispering.
Thank you.
I
think that is the
Best advice.
solid
Just
advice right there. Just
speak
speak
normal.
normally so that I know it's you and not, like when we got at the Kellogg house. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
It was exciting.
yeah.
Oh, I was at Warner Grand like a couple years ago, and we're up in the upper balcony, and we're all kind of sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear this, "I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, excuse me, excuse me,"
Polite ghost.
and it sounded like somebody was trying to get through the crowd, and
Oh
I was
my
like so
gosh.
excited, and then I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing," and then I'm looking at the video camera, and I pan over, and there's one of our members, and she's kind of like going through making fun of the thing.
Sorry,
And I'm just like,
Buzzkill.
So
Okay.
Okay.
So let's talk about our cocktails really quick,
Oh,
if that's
yes,
okay. Only
because I've
because I
been
want to
thinking
drink
on some-
mine, and I just want to, but I
oh,
don't
I
want to
feel
have
bad. I
it
jumped the
again.
gun on you guys.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Oh
Get
no,
all my
don't.
lipstick
That's what it's there
stains.
for. This is well. First, let's just
Let's
say
do it.
cheers.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers to
Cheers.
Paul.
Thank you so
Cheers
much.
to y'all for
And,
having me.
yes, let's take a little sip. I'm telling you, it's the tiniest little
I
lip
think
there.
I need something with
So,
a bigger.
Rim, yes, but
It's
these
good for the
I was so worried about
good for the
breakage
bubbles.
because some of our champagne glasses don't travel well.
Well, and some of
So-
Samantha's are vintage too.
Yeah, but the champagne we're drinking was Marilyn Monroe's choice. Number one, she did have it in cases at her house, and they also served it at the Oscars. So it's
That's
the
so
Piper Heidsieck.
I feel
and
really
I think
special.
I got this.
Yeah.
It was affordable at $40, but usually for Mimosa, I'm not going to do a $40.
Right.
But
Special
a
occasion.
special occasion, yes.
Right.
Ronnie
Rolls with us.
insisted. If you really want the fancy one, it's the vintage 2012 for special occasions, and it's the Globe's most loved and lauded since the 1770s, according to
Wow.
I'm really
magazine.com.
enjoying
So it's a new favorite of mine, and I had to be careful with champagne because
She does. It makes her tired.
it makes me a little sleepy after a while, unless I'm like, F it, we're party on. It's a French 75.
We have to
getting,
turn up.
we're getting it turned up. Ronnie say a little sloppy, but I try not to
No,
be sloppy.
she doesn't get sloppy. She turns up.
Uh,
And by the way, that's our favorite French 75. In New Orleans, and we'll get
Yes.
ourselves a nightcap, and then all of a sudden, T will be like, "Oh, should we go in front of the Lollery house?" And
I
it's
know,
like in the middle of the
I know,
night,
and
kinda
I'm more
boring.
now a gin where I used to be more cognac. But anyways, back to this Mimosa. Really, your favorite juice today? We did peach, and top it off with champagne. I don't think it gets any simpler. And our garnish is a honey stick and fresh cherry or peach.
I love it, sis. You
So,
did a great job.
Okay, so cheers.
Yay.
I just
Cheers
wanted to
again.
get that done so we can actually drink them.
I was
Champagne
sipping
is
on
best
mine.
served chilled. I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
It's beautiful. Thank you, sis.
Mhm.
Okay, so we went on your first paranormal investigation. We found out that you got old school cred with Paranormal State. That's like, I've been kind of backtracking some of the old timey ghost shows. I don't call them old timey. So
it doesn't make me feel old at all.
no, you're not supposed to feel old. But the fact that you said 1992, I'm like, well, why didn't I watch these things back then? This fear show. Oh yeah, Samantha and I were underway sailing
And
the.
Y'all
you
had
getting
lives.
ready for the Coast Guard.
Yeah, you
yes.
had lives to do.
No, you got
know.
satellite TV.
In some ways, I'm so envious because I couldn't have done like an investigation on our ship or some of the remote
Oh, we had
locations
some
of the
Oh,
Coast
yeah.
Guard
on our
that we've
ships,
been
too.
to. So
we
yeah,
had
so I've
those
been great.
things.
We did, you guys know, well, I do event management.
Yes.
That's pays the bills.
I think that's also why you and I became fast friends.
I think so, 'cause
can
we speak the same
appreciate you.
language.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I just want to say shout out to Betty's birthday because it was really
Oh
amazing.
my
Kat made the
gosh.
cake, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So Kiko's twin sister,
Mhm.
Oh,
Kat,
that's right.
Katrina, made Betty's cake. Paul came in. I knew he was going to help me, and then it was like he just went like above and beyond. And
yes.
Aw.
he came up with this game. So Betty, my daughter, was spooky
That's
at a very young age, and she wanted to have an it kind of party, and it kind of
Yes.
fit in. And she wanted to have it at Mystic Museum, which at that time had flashback video for the first time and was highlighting certain horror films. So it was the perfect backdrop.
Yeah.
And he knows that Betty's turning 10 at the time, and he says we
Double
need to have a
digits.
game. And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that. And he totally puts together this game with red balloons, and there's numbers inside, and there's this whole thing with the kids popping them, and then they get to like compete for these Funkos. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just like
Yeah.
so amazing. And to this day, Betty still has all of those, and we have them organized in a toy chest that Samantha's husband made for Jaden. And they're in there, and she only brings out certain ones at certain times. So
Oh, really?
anyway,
So it's a rotating
fun.
collection.
yeah,
I
your
like
skill
that.
set and just your talent and the way your brain works. It's
It was
just
such
like,
a great party. It was so fun.
Well, you guys
Everybody
are,
had a
your
great
family
time.
is amazing.
Ah,
I mean,
thank
good grief.
you.
Talk about like such a family unit.
I
You know what I
love it.
mean? It's
Oh,
just,
thank
it's
you so
amazing
much.
the bond you
Thank
have.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Well,
that.
I wanted to talk about also, Ronnie mentioned, and tell me if I'm pronouncing this right, the mirror scrying.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was gonna say I felt I was gonna bring you guys some mirrors,
Oh my
as gifts.
gosh.
But I was nervous because I'm like, a lot of people are a little hesitant or about having that in their house.
Look,
or...
we put veils on our mirrors around our house.
Oh, there you go then.
Okay.
Well,
Betty,
you do. I don't. But maybe I should. I love the Skeleton Key movie.
Okay.
Right? That's what that mostly reminds me of. But what I was researching before the podcast, and I have a crystal ball that I usually bring with me to kind of remove or close a session in tarot or what have you. And so Ronnie had mentioned that you're working on a little area in your home.
Oh, you have a collection,
or you have a collection of mirrors?
No, well,
you laid them all. Is it your bed, or you have a whole bunch of?
I just laid them out. They're all actually over at the Old World Emporium.
Oh, okay, that's in Santa Clarita, right?
Yeah, they're there. They're for sale. They're. But right now it's cool because the reading room, where they do tarot or different fortune telling kind of things, psychic readings and things. Both walls, like one wall's covered with gold. Scrying mirrors, and the other side is black scrying mirrors.
Oh my gosh!
So
Yeah, because that's some behind the
intense.
scenes and send us a video of that. That'd
Absolutely.
be so cool.
So those who don't know, scrying is seeing or peeping, is the practice of looking into a suitable medium in the hope of detecting significant messages or visions.
Right.
We've seen it in Harry Potter and Snow White, the magical mirror. You know? And so it's already been in existence for so long and used as a pop culture reference, but I had really never truly, I don't know that much about it.
And
well, I'm not going to lie right now, a little bit glad that you have it at the Old Emporium and not in your house, because I'm like, how is he?
Because it can create a portal, right? Or something.
Yeah, it can. Okay. And we'll let you elaborate a little bit more, but for me, it's like, wow, Paul's a superhero. How is he like handling all this energy around him all the time? So do tell.
Yeah, I just think it is a lot of energy, and you have to really kind of, don't go into it blindly.
Right.
No
pun
intended.
I made the mistake, and trust me, I'm not going to do it again.
Well,
but
you said mistake.
when I had so many of those mirrors done and ready and just kind of like stored up there, because again, I kind of do it the old school way. I make the mirrors, but then I leave them out on the full moon, and then once they kind of sit out in the full moon, then they're ready to go out into the world and go do their thing. Yeah. So it was after an activation, but before I was able to go to the old world, and the energy in my room was vibrating. So when I was trying to sleep at night, it just felt like my skin was vibrating, and I'm like, okay. So I had to get up, and I turned them all around to face the wall.
To close them up.
And I'm like, okay, well, that was stupid. I'm
wow.
not
Well, because even in feng shui, if you're facing a mirror in your bedroom, your energy is going to be.
There's
there's things.
You got to put fabric in between it.
Yeah, because the mirror just creates more energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So by the way, I just read about when people kind of like, oh my gosh, a bee is coming at me. Well, bees are attracted to vibration, so your body is giving off the vibration to attract the bee.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Anyways,
now, what I will say about covering your mirrors around your house, and let's go back to New Mexico or places where they have these, like, thunderstorms and different things. Arizona would be another one. They would cover the mirrors because they were afraid that the lightning would be attracted to those mirrors and, like, hit the mirrors. So it is something that happens where there's a lot of different storms. But for myself, I was gifted a vintage vanity. From actually Monique Pattenberg's mom. So Norma had gifted me this thing that when I was helping out with something years and years ago. And it became Betty's little vanity. And for whatever reason, when Betty was little, she started talking about this little boy being at the foot of her bed and different things in the house. And I said,
I don't think I remember this.
We need to start covering up that mirror. I didn't tell you this?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we can talk about residual energies or whatever, but my house was built in 1999, and so if there was a residual energy, I'm guessing it would have to be from the land, not from the actual house. And we used to have a lot of gatherings at our house, and so all the little nieces and nephews were over there, and Brendan, our nephew, who lives in Las Vegas, he was probably like 3 or 4 years old, and he was there this time. Soph was there. All of the kids were there, and they were playing hide and seek like around the house. Okay. Everybody goes home. Nobody was like staying the night. I went to walk into my master bedroom, and I saw this shadow little boy dart across me, like where I just
in the house
stopped.
you're in now.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and I went like, I don't know why, but it reminded me like the same shape as Brendan. So it startled me.
Oh, now it's coming up. Okay. I'm vaguely remembering this now.
I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. So I was like, okay, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like whatever. And then next thing I know, Betty starts talking about this damn little boy at the foot of her bed. So did somebody bring something? I mean, we do have some antiques in our house.
You have to be careful with the antiques, even though I love them so.
So we started to cover Betty's mirror.
I think
is my point.
And
And
then
then
Sophia,
it
you
kind
also
of just
cover your
stopped.
mirror. Do you do that?
Oh
anymore?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
So I'm just gonna tell you guys, even Walmart sells like scrying balls. I mean, online. Like this
you're
is
gonna get into it. Start with
Yeah.
Walmart. No,
Yeah, there you go. Start easy.
$37.99
Start
for
easy.
meditation and crystal healing. I was like, really?
Okay.
Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon.
Okay.
But yeah, it just fascinated me, and it was something that, you know, you hear tarot, you hear all these other kind of mediums that people, the oracle cards or pendulums, and I just got fascinated by scrying.
So that would be your favorite scrying?
It's kind
At
of
least
cool
right
because
now.
it's something you could do by yourself.
Ooh,
You know.
you do stuff by yourself. See, I was
Well,
born
no.
in the world with somebody, so you
And
know.
that's the thing. If you're starting out in this kind of stuff, it's like, don't go on investigations by yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
please.
You know, other quick rules, you know, don't investigate your own house. If you've got something
Okay.
going on, don't investigate it yourself, because basically you're just kind of like opening that line of communication with whatever's there.
Yeah, and you can't
And
turn
that's
it
kind of
off.
what you don't. You're right.
So I
right.
have a funny story. So one time Sophia was out of town and Paxton had just got me one of those EVP things, right? I thought it was just a toy. And he was messing with it, and it was kind of the wall between our family room and Sophia's room, and it was going off. I mean, it was like...
She called me right away.
And
I think you recorded it because you were with your plumber or
that's
somebody.
that was
Oh,
a whole
shoot, a whole
different thing.
nother-
This is something else. So anyways, but funny story is, I'm like, we gotta see what's going on. Let's go check Sophia's room. And so we go in there, and it's like, oh, that's where all her gaming setup is and all her electric so
So it was just all that
I think it was just all the
electronic
electrical
feedback.
stuff. But like she said, she does cover her mirror.
So the other thing that I wanted, unless you have more to add about the
No.
mirror scrying, the other thing that I was very curious about with Paul is I remember when you were gifted a haunted doll from
Yes.
the Mystic Museum,
Yes.
and now your collection's grown
Yes.
quite a bit.
Do you cover those up too? Like, how does
No.
that work?
No,
Okay.
he has to put one of them in front of a window to make her happy.
Yeah, that was the
Yes.
one. Her name's Dolly, and she
Dolly.
gave herself that name.
What?
Oh yeah.
Came to you in a dream? How do you know
No,
that?
she spoke. There was
No
two. There was
way.
two
Oh.
voices that came out. One was
Like
either
with your recorder?
no, just I was in bed, and it was one morning, and I heard, I want to say it was "Hi, Dad," but it was a little girl's voice, and it said "Hi, Dad," and I'm like, okay, she's feeling comfortable. She's happier. It was like the first
I
couple
love
weeks
how
that she
you were
was
like
there.
not freaked out. Oh, she feels welcome.
Look, we
here.
aren't
Well,
trying
that's
to
the
buy
thing
no
I don't-
dolls at the thrift
That's-
stores, guys. We're not
that's-
doing it.
That's a crazy thing I don't understand. It's kind of like, you know, I don't understand why people get freaked out. It's like, okay, it's okay.
Because you don't have
But-
babies. You don't have, those are your babies now.
Well, yeah.
Those are your babies.
Yeah. But I mean, even if you're in a haunted location or something, you know, I get it. Things get intense, and it's, you know, it's a little off-putting. But yeah, I don't understand the whole like overreaction to things. and,
Okay,
like,
I'm with you on that.
I don't get that. That's why
I'm
you're
with
there.
you on
So is Dolly your favorite? How many do you have?
3 that are fully haunted.
And one is, we can appreciate this being in the Coast Guard.
The sailor.
The sailor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Old Navy doll, you
Yeah.
said. So give me some history
So
on
that would be
We'll
like
be
what, the
posting
Robert
these
the
in our
doll?
story.
It kind of
Kind of?
it's kind of he's kind of in the same kind of vein as Robert the doll, but
Well,
he's a
and
little
I-
smaller.
Will admit, when I first saw his picture, I was like, "Oh my God, is he holding Robert the doll?" Like, I was totally
Yeah, the
like, "Oh
face.
my God, I gotta call Paul. What's happening here?"
Yeah, the way that his face is made,
Yeah,
it
very
kind of looks like
similar.
Robert the doll, but just a very smaller kind
Guys,
of
if you
version.
don't know this, our listeners, there are 2 very prominent haunted dolls. One is a female, Annabelle. We all know this about The Conjuring, and it's actually a Raggedy Ann doll, which Paul has visited and seen in person. And then Robert the doll. Robert the doll's actually out of Florida, I believe, and it's
The Keys. So interesting you say that. So I'm thinking there's like just these 2 famous haunted dolls, Annabelle, Robert the doll. And little did I know, when I did a little Google search on mentalfloss.com, here
We
comes
love mental
the
floss.
Renesmee doll from Twilight at the Forks City Hall or Chamber
Are
of
you
Commerce
serious?
is said to be haunted. There is also a Elsa doll out of Houston from, fairly
Frozen?
new from Frozen that is
Wow.
also, yes, said to be haunted. And, one in Japan, and there's one called Mandy. So when you look at it, it's like, oh, there's like 7 famous haunted dolls.
Oh, I mean, in Mexico, there's the Island of the Dolls.
The Island of the Dolls, yes, Josh Gates.
She
That's
loves Josh
yes,
Gates.
expedition.
Okay. She got a total crush
Well,
on
he has so
Josh
many
Gates.
shows. Like,
he does. It's hard to keep up.
But it's
is.
fun, and
It is fun. He's funny.
He's funny. He's engaging. He's. I think he was at some convention or something like that. But he was a nice guy.
Aww.
You know, that's what you love to hear
seems
about.
genuinely
so
nice.
many people.
Yeah.
Many
Just
people.
like
And crossing and passing.
in crossing kind of path.
Well,
I'm
and
glad
he's
to hear
actually
that.
met Lorraine Warren. I mean, a few of our friends
that.
have met her and or heard her speak live.
Well,
and-
but I just want to say back to your Josh Gates. You said he was really nice and pleasant.
Oh, yeah.
Because some people say don't meet your heroes. Now I'm hearing
You're
that I
nervous
should
about
encourage
that.
this.
I met Zach.
Samantha should encourage this.
I met Zach Bagan.
Yes, I remember
Okay, how
that
was he?
story.
He was nice.
Okay.
He was just really super cool.
Like,
It
we're
was
getting
before-
paranormal gossip right now.
We're spilling the tea here at the Mystic Museum.
It was just before no, it was probably a year or so before his museum opened in Vegas.
Yeah.
We were doing a gig out in Vegas, and it was like we had a break, and I'm like, I'm hopping in the car because this is my only chance. I got to go see the museum, and whether it's open or not, or just whatever. So I drove down there, drove around the building. It's right kind of kitty corner from the Liberace Museum.
Oh, I've never been to the Liberace Museum,
It's
but
cool.
I feel like I need to.
We did it was the premiere for The Wedding Planner. Whatever, it was
Oh,
Adam
gosh.
Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
Oh,
That
We
would
did
be
that
a wedding.
premiere
That was a
Singer.
great movie.
We did that at there.
The Wedding
at,
Singer.
At
Wedding
Liberace
Planners with
Mansion.
J-Lo.
That's it.
And Matthew McConaughey.
So he was
The
he
Wedding
was-
Singers with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
The Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
So Zach was out there and he was talking, and he actually was in the front lawn and he was talking to a contractor. So of course I freaked out. And
you
so,
recognized him
yeah,
right
I'm like,
away.
this is crazy. He's
You
here.
fanboyed out?
Fanboyed out,
I
tore
would've
around the
too.
corner, parked as quick as I could, ran like hell down the street, the sidewalk, and he was
will
gone.
see me. Oh, shucks.
And I was like, oh,
Dang
come
it.
on. So I'm walking back to my car. I'm like, all right, I need to get back. And I just hear his voice, and I'm like, well, what the heck? And he's actually like texting, or he was on the phone or something like that.
Is he a talk texter? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I don't. I think he was just on the phone on speaker or
Alright.
something like that. But anyway, so it was just cool. He hung up the phone, and I was just kind of like walking by the gate, and I'm like, hey. And he looked up, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, oh. And I just kind of was fangirled out for a little bit.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear
And that was it. And then he was like, I don't have the keys to the place. He's like, a contractor has them all. He's like, if he was here, man, I'd let you in to kind of
Are
take a
you
look around. And I was
serious?
just
Oh,
like,
okay.
oh my
Some
God.
props,
But it-
Zach.
But
But
in
it
a
was
way,
just
you
nice.
won. I mean, in a way, you went to the museum. You got more than you
And
thought,
I
right?
actually
I
met,
mean,
and he
That's
was cool. He
awesome.
was very nice and took a photo. And
I'm very glad
was
to
it.
hear that because
Me
I
too.
think too a lot of times when you meet celebrities, we're in the LA area. You know, a lot of people get put off because they're not as friendly as you think that they might be.
Oh, because we think we know them because we're following them
Yes.
on Instagram.
or
and-
social
Yes.
media, yes.
Yeah.
But rule is don't bother them with their families or
Eating.
eating.
Oh,
Come
there
on.
you go,
Yeah.
Eating. That's a big one.
Could be ravenous and like you're
Well, the last
interrupting their
time we
bite.
were in Las Vegas, I think it was for our nephew's going away party, and because he was joining the National Guard, and we were driving around their museum, and it seemingly that they bought the house next
Yeah.
to the museum
They've
that is
expanded.
haunted. They've expanded.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we
It's
need to get
super
back to
popular.
Las Vegas.
That would be a fun trip.
We weren't able to go inside that museum, by the way, because Betty, I just couldn't do it without her.
Mm-hmm.
Betty was only maybe 11 or 12, and they have an age restriction. You're not allowed to go into that museum unless you're 16 and older.
Oh.
So we just hung out by the shop and took a couple pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and of course their old hearse, which is amazing. Pontiac, I think it is, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But the point is, I actually haven't been inside that museum yet.
We should go because I haven't been either.
Okay,
So
let's do this.
what would be cool if we do a road trip?
Vegas,
but we
baby,
do,
Vegas.
We do the after hour tour.
Oh yeah,
Where
I'm
it's like
so
I think it's a
down.
flashlight tour or something like that. But
I'm
you get
bringing
the
my
place.
B12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Samantha's bringing the B12. I love this.
So that would be fun. I
That
would
would
be
so
down for
fun.
that.
Okay,
fun.
let's
Yeah.
get that on the calendar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the haunted doll thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you have how many again?
3 that are actually haunted dolls.
Okay. And that they talk to you? Is that how you figure out they're haunted? Or because like there's a whole market for haunted dolls. I mean, one sold for 1,000 pounds on eBay or something. I mean,
It's some of it. I mean, I get it, but then there's like some people that I've been looking on social media where it's kind of like they have this plethora of haunted items, and I'm like, there's not that many haunted items
Right.
you can have access to.
one person.
I mean, you know, I'm very blessed and fortunate that I have 3.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but they're very diverse because I don't know where the mystic got, you know, Dolly from. the sailor, I got him from an antique shop on Sherman Oaks.
Wow.
So it wasn't that bad.
I wonder if it belonged to Ozzy Osbourne at one point. Only because Ozzy Osbourne purchased a souvenir doll from, I believe, where the haunted doll in Florida is, and souvenir, and he had to return it because he had like so much bad
activity happening.
Really?
Yeah.
And then the third one came from New Orleans, and it was Bloody Marys.
It was
Bloody Marys.
from Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see, he knows some people.
Yeah, see, Ozzy Osbourne once blamed his health issues on a replica doll souvenir, disrespecting the doll visitors' claimed misfortune. Yeah, so he got rid of it. Maybe you have that doll.
Oh, I don't know.
That would be epic.
That'd be crazy, but yeah. No, they've been fine. They've all been getting along. It's always that whole fear of like when you bring energies together, how are they going to react? But,
right.
No,
like there's Fight Club. Yeah. There's Fight Club in your.
Yeah, that's all I need.
Fight Club,
that's
Fright
all
Club.
I need.
Fright Club, Dog Club.
I love it. Well,
I just saw like a merch. Sorry, just like fighting.
Okay, she's developing
dolls.
you a T-shirt line right now.
Do it. We need the merch.
I love it. Well, we're almost at our time. Is there anything that you'd like to tell our listeners about? Something fun you have coming up, or where they can find you? Now, I would tell you guys, if you want to know haunted locations, you have to check out his Instagram. You need to check out his website, because myself, I admit, I never knew what Preston Castle was until you posted it in your feed, and I was like, oh wow, this is here in California.
Yeah.
So you're a plethora of knowledge. It's amazing.
We've been fortunate. Our team's been very fortunate of all the different stuff that we've done over the years.
Yeah.
Just the different opportunities and the places that we've been to.
Yeah, because you're Brandon. How do you pronounce his last name?
Alice?
Yes.
Yeah.
I adore him, and I'm so excited because he's Facebook friends with me. But I'm sure it's because he saw I'm friends with him, and then he's like, okay, she's safe.
Oh, yeah. No. Brandon's lovely. He's such a nice guy, great family guy. I fangirled out when I saw him in 2011 or 10 or something like that. And he did it was some convention, and he showed the famous Queen Mary clip.
Oh, yeah.
With the face in the
That
shower
was, I
room.
saw that he was on Fright Club or something recently, right?
Yeah, a
and I got
couple
so
weeks
excited. I recognize him. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
So, and that's, again, that excited me because I'm like, holy crap, and it's a Queen Mary, and it's here in LA.
Miss Queen Mary.
So, no, he's a sweetheart.
Well, I brought him up because maybe it's already on the Discovery Channel or Travel Channel, whatever he's doing, the show that he has coming up on Preston Castle. And I was like, oh, I already heard about this from Paul.
I can't take credit for that.
I love it. I'm just messing with you.
Brandon has...
But he is amazing, and he's talented.
One of your godsons is named Preston, no?
I know.
Right?
Totally.
So, okay,
I love Preston.
Brandon was one of the first, I guess, groups, really, to kind of go out when he was...
no, he's
he has
legit.
APRA. Back in, like, the late 2008, 2009. I mean, before that, he was doing Preston Castle. Before it became a thing.
It became a thing, because there is a connection to Preston Castle from Whittier. The Whittier Museum has photos of a similar, almost like a twin castle that was out here in Whittier.
No way. How cool.
So I'm learning more about it, but mad love for him. He's an amazing person. He's totally legit. And I like that, going back to when you're investigating, you shouldn't be freaking out when somebody starts talking, or you get like a jump scare of sorts. It's like, no, that's what you want to happen.
Yeah, that's why you're there.
Yeah, that's why you're there. And with him, he's all about the science. Mm-hmm. Like, he really gets involved in the science and all of that. I love it.
Okay, have you watched the Keisha show yet?
Oh yeah,
Conjuring.
I did.
But
we
saying
watch
like
all of them.
But what I was saying is that first episode is like, I don't want anything to get into me system. I'm like, what the heck are you there for, girl?
She was hilarious. I didn't sign up for this. It's like,
I didn't sign up.
I was like, you signed a contract with Discovery Plus. I think you signed up for it.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm gonna say shout out to her third episode with her rapper friend, because that I really like that.
That was fun.
And we're all about women representation.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, awesome. Somebody got some vibes here. So we loved it. But yes, what would be your recommendation if people were to start out slow? Now, we have a friend named Jorge who recently said we should investigate his grandma's house. But going back to what you said, is like, don't be stirring up stuff in your own home, which was what Tamantha was talking about. So don't start at your own home if you think you have activity.
No. And the other thing that I always like to say, because people, sometimes ask, like, what what makes you nervous, or like, or does any place scare you, per se. The worst kind of situations I think that you can get into are residential hauntings.
Ooh.
Like if you go to Preston Castle, you kind of know what you're dealing with. Bobby Mackey's, you kind of know what you're dealing with.
I learned about that place too from him.
I like what you said about residential. We just watched all the Poltergeists, Sophia, Paxton, and I.
Because you never know. You don't know what that family really does behind closed doors. You don't know what the people who own the house before them did.
Did they conjure some stuff?
You don't know the land. You don't know the residential. You don't know the history. You kind of go in there with I don't know. And that's why, when we've done residential in the past, and it's kind of like you have to assess what exactly is there, what the haunting is, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, how to keep things calm.
How often do you guys meet or get together to do your investigations?
It just depends. It honestly depends. There's times where we'll go a couple times a month. There's times where we'll skip a month or something like that, just whether it's people's schedules with work or anything like that.
Of course, life happens. What about you said it was a Los Angeles Paranormal Club is what you joined?
Oh, no.
In the beginning, or is it still active?
No, LA Paranormal. They were like old school. Los Angeles, they had it on lockdown as far as ghost hunts and paranormal groups. They were the one. But yeah, over time, people change, life happens, jobs, careers,
you start
all that
having
kind of good
babies,
stuff.
or you have to move because of your job or different things like
all
that.
of that. So, you just kind of have to go with it. So, we've been fortunate that Ghost Watch is still going on.
Yeah, I love
trucking.
Ghost Watch.
We're still
Ghost Watch Paranormal.
I'm excited. It's new to me.
Before we end, I just want to say too, Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything that stood out specifically when you were in Egypt?
I loved all your photos.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, knock on wood. I got, again, through work.
We talk about curses and everything.
Yeah, no, I got lucky through work. Went in 2019 and then just got back 2021.
It's amazing.
Did it again. I was there almost 30 days this last time.
Yes, you were like, he's
nuts.
sending pictures and he's like on the Nile. And I'm like,
that's so
happening?
Oh, yeah.
I want to
It's
be
crazy.
adventure.
You touch the Sphinx. We're that close to the Sphinx where you're touching it, because normally you don't.
Is there energy bouncing off that? Like how? No, just another
Too hot.
day.
No, there is something. I'm not claustrophobic per se, but like if you get into kind of a tight space.
I was just saying that would be the hardest thing for me
you
is
out.
just being in a tight, closed space. I'm like Jason Bourne. I need my 6 exits, and I can't move fast enough.
The one thing I will say, as far as like energy or whatnot, there was and I forget the guy's name, but he was a colonel. Can't remember his name, but anyway, his bust was in the Alexandria Museum, and I just remember I was on the second floor, heading up the stairs, and the whole thing was like, I was getting the sense, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I'm just kind of looking around, and I'm not sure what it is, but then the more I'm kind of going into the third floor, it's hitting me hard, and I'm like, what the hell, man? This isn't normal.
Yeah.
So the closest thing that I could say that I was feeling it was the Warrens have this wooden doll that looks like a devil.
Oh.
That they found, and it was like a ritualistic kind of.
It was like in the forest or in the woods or something.
Oh,
I
Tamantha
vaguely
knows.
remember
Exactly.
this. Mm-hmm.
So that was more negative than the Annabelle doll, to me at least.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
I've
the
heard
Annabelle
that.
doll is
Was
just
it
a little bit more
enclosed?
warded, but no,
It's not
it was just out
enclosed.
there.
You can see it in their museum,
Okay.
I believe. Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been one of your shots where I was like, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I think I just put it on like a story or a
Okay.
reel or something like that. But anyway, this thing was just so negative that I couldn't get with. I got a couple feet with it just to make sure that this is exactly what was radiating that thing, and it was like, sure enough, it was. But come to find out, he was a really bad general who did some really bad things to people.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I was just
Unfortunately.
like, and even walking down, it was just felt like he was like hanging out behind my shoulder. I'm just kind of like,
You're like,
all right,
dude, you got to leave.
you stay
You
there.
just got to go. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm leaving.
Oh my gosh.
You stay.
Well, this has been such a pleasure. Guys, please check out our friend on Instagram at Ghostwatch Paranormal, Mr. Paul Roberts. Check
Thank
out
you.
his
Thank you so
website.
much.
Yes.
And if you go on a pretty significant investigation and something stands out, please reach out to us because we'd love to have you back on the show.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yes.
thank you for having me.
Thank you
This
for the
is
donut.
wonderful.
I know.
And the drinks.
Cheers to you.
Oh,
Yes.
always a cocktail. Cheers
Cheers.
to fall.
Cheers.
Cheers.